watch a game, Kibitzing game. Is this going to start? Okay, yes. This one just started. 22-25 versus 23-56. What is going to go down here? Alright. Some type of a Nimzo. Let's get that right. Bogo-Indian defense. Queen e7. I've played this setup quite a bit for black, and I like it. When you play the bishop out to b4, you have to be content with giving it up. And when you do, make sure that you are able to establish your resulting pawn structure on dark to compensate for his loss. So, namely, d6 into e5. So we could be having that not long off from now. Knight on c6 will be facilitating an eventual e5 advance. And now the question is finally thrown to the bishop. So bishop takes, queen takes, I think is best. Another detail that white has to be cautious of is that once e5 is established, e4 becomes an immediate threat of a fork. And I think the immediate advance is better than castling. So let's throw a potential threat at white. Now it is defended enough. This is not there just yet. However, after castles rook e8, it is then back on. So how will this structure change, if at all? Will the tension be maintained? No. Okay, so we're heading forward with a closed system, and it may look a bit unnatural to bring the knight back home, but he has good prospects in that of a6, c5, and maybe even a clamping down with a4. White might need to be addressing something like this by playing b4 or b3 so as to not prevent a4. Establishing a pawn on a4 implies what exactly? It implies that this knight will eventually find a wonderful home on the c5 square and will have influence on the queen side immensely in addition to the center. So the offering of light square bishops, the good bishop for a bad bishop. I don't know that this is a good idea. Well, okay, well, I wonder about that. I wonder if it's a good idea in situations like that to give up the bad bishop for a good bishop. And the reason I bring that to question is because of what? It's because white has a space advantage, and it's generally recognized that what? You should be keeping more pieces on the board if you're the side who has more space, more freedom of movement for the pieces. So queen takes a5. b6 is a thought. Knight here with a4 to follow. I think b4 is definitely a candidate move. It's not being played, okay, but a4 is not there just yet. Okay, this is, I believe, strictly a flight square type of thing. I don't know that there was really a threat of the knight jumping into g5 and being any type of an annoyance. So this is watched over. g6 watches over f5. If you could somehow get queen d7, a4, and then knight c5, I would really be loving black. But until I can rely upon this knight as having a home, I don't know about him. He scares me, being out of play. If I'm on the black end and I'm seeing this knight here, it scares me. So, okay, grabbing some space, and now I guess, okay, the knight is looking for b5. With a5 in, this now you could rely upon as a pretty good home for a knight. And the implications of such are that you're tying down some of the black pieces to its defense for as long as there's a knight on b5. In the meantime, black is grabbing a lot of space. There is some area right here that's a bit weakened. f7, f6, g6. This pawn... Oh, he didn't capture a pawn. I thought for a second the knight grabbed a pawn on a7. That is not the case. He's looking to pivot on c6. I've actually played an over-the-board game where the positioning of a knight right here looked really good, but it turned out to be out of play. I don't know that that is the case in this game, though. I think it's actually a pretty good piece as it is right now. He's doing a good job in guarding b4, and this knight is not so great. So what's going to happen over here on the queen side? There's a lot of interesting possibilities. with f5, f3 weakening light squares, making this pawn on g2 flinch in some way, and then looking for mate on g2. So you capture like this, so that if there is a capture on a5, you could be recapturing with the rook, and then work on this pawn being isolated. We will not have that particular capture take place, but maybe now we will have a takes b. As otherwise this, well, it's also facilitating this particular advance. These pawns are very scary looking. This is an interesting game, about 2 minutes each. We could have several different interesting possibilities. G3, F3, we are seeing F3. G2 is weakened, and that means the light squares are now soft. If G3, if this queen could somehow get there, it seems like a little bit of a ways off though. Pawn takes, the rook is hitting the knight. These black rooks can get active quite quick. And, I guess, oh, okay, queen g5 for this. Queen g5 for knight f6 to kick the queen out of her central post. Here's a good way to lose for white. Pawn takes, discovered check, and then mate on g2. So don't do that. Keep the tension, white. Do not capture. This knight is hit. The queen is now tethered to the defense of the knight. Not a good position to be in. Is there a way to kick the queen away? That's the number one question I ask myself if there's a piece. One of my opponent's pieces is watching over another one of their pieces. Is there a way to kick away that defender? Tactic of deflection. Is it there? I don't think it is. What is this knight looking to do? Oh, maybe just clear the way for this advance. If the h-file opens up, this is going to be game over. I don't like this move. Or actually, there's queen here. I think this becomes a necessity. h4, as otherwise queen h3 to g2. h4 is needed. Or is it? The rook is going to be there. But now we have potential smothered mates coming up. Queen h3, rook here. If there could be a rook on g5... Oh, black abandoned that plan. I wonder if it was maybe too far-fetched to get the queen on h3... a rook here on g5, and then the typical queen takes h2, rook h5. Instead, black is going with something maybe that is a bit more clean, looking to open up the h-file and smash through on h2. Game over. And here he comes. The rook is, well, he was being attacked, and I think maybe if he wasn't being attacked, he was still going to come over in this direction on the h-file. This pawn is irrelevant. He's passed, but this king, his house is on fire over here, and it's just big trouble. Rook h8. There's no need to make this capture just yet. In fact, in many cases, you don't want to capture so quickly because now there's going to be lateral defense. After f takes, now there's a defense against h2, whereas otherwise, if you first double, keeping the tension and only with a timely capture on g3, then you smash through at the h2 point. So now there might be some defensive resources with rook f2. Under a minute for black to figure this out. A slight time edge to white, who has a material plus, or do they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, they have material plus. There's a pass a pawn. If it simplifies 2 more, he certainly becomes more and more valuable. What are we going to have? Less than 40 seconds. So the queen placed on the h-file, rook f2. Again, that other idea I think might have been h4 when the queen was threatening to get to h2. Whoa. No, this isn't working. Is it? It's not working, is it? The king's gonna run. He's gonna run like crazy, isn't he? Oh, no, he's not. No, he's not gonna run. Queen h3, king here, queen check, queen mate on e2. If king here, queen check, and then mate. Oh, this is working. There's gonna be an ensuing mate on this square, or hang on. Oh, okay, so investing some material. Mate threat is back on. Queen h2. Oh, queen check, king takes pawn is needed. King takes pawn. Where's the mate? Oh, the mate is on e2. The king needed to take the pawn. And maybe there was still going to be a mate after king takes f3, but this was much cleaner. Queen e2. GG. Ah, that was a really interesting game out of the Bogo-Indian. I'm glad I stopped in to view that one. All right, very cool. Good games. Good game. Nice.